Hi guys, Witeo here. A bit of a late video again, but I decided to give you my personal boss list of Tales of Iron. Now, this list is not made by me. It is made by... Oh yeah, this list is made by the Leo Ricky Flame. Give him a like on Twitter. Now, as far as I can see, here are listed some of the what I call minor bosses in the game, and the way I will rank these bosses is as they are done in the Bloody Whiskers difficulty, because I truly believe that the Bloody Whiskers is the true difficulty of the game. So, where do we start? I think we start with the brother, Dennis. Now, Dennis, I'll be honest with you, even in the hardest difficulty, even if you don't know really how powerful the bosses are, or even what you're doing, if you're blocking, Dennis should not be a problem. I think he has one extra attack involving the crossbow, and he does it frequently in the hardest difficulty, but he's in no way dangerous, in my opinion. Then we go to this guy. I think his name is Chaba. I'm not really sure. He's one of the optional bosses, and indeed you fight them right before you fight the Lancelot. I would put Chuba, believe it or not, in the B category, because not if, you are going to be fighting him right at the very beginning, and you have you're very weak, you don't have weapons, you don't have health upgrades, you have only the first health upgrade, and it's very easy for you to die. That is why I put him. Actually, I'm going to put him at the A category, because just because of this reason. Because he's coming early. He's capable, very capable of killing you, and you're going to die. Excuse me, I burped. So now we are going for Lancelot. I think Lancelot should be the same category. Actually, you know what? I will put the Chaba in the B category and Lancelot in the A category, because he is a boss, you know, and he should be a one higher category than the what I call the elites or optional bosses. So Lancelot, he doesn't have very many attacks, but if you're playing on the hardest difficulty, more than 2 hits is most likely death. So he's very dangerous. Don't underestimate him. Look for his attacks, study his movement, and if you're not too greedy, you should be able to do him. The next guy joins the Choba. I actually forget his name. I'll make sure to add it when I made it in this video, but this guy you fight right before you face the second general. I'll make sure to include his name as well, but it escapes me. This guy is again extremely dangerous, but I will put him actually one level below the Chaba just because you're actually fighting this guy alongside the Ranger, and the Ranger can actually do some extra damage. He can actually kill the boss if you kite them long enough. So I think the C category is right for him. And we go for the boss. I actually, you know what? Um, I'm putting him alongside the Lancelot. Now this boss, I wouldn't say is very hard. Again, the same thing. Study his movement, study his attacks, and he's fairly. I wouldn't say he's fairly easy, but the first two phases are easy. Always be prepared for the third phase because although the bosses are weaker, they're much more aggressive and do a lot of damage. So avoid getting hit and always be on the with the lower weight, so you can actually avoid most of the attacks. Now, this guy right here is called Rotten Rottenson, and he's one of the hardest bosses in the game. In fact, right now I'm trying to do a challenge, which is, if I am to summarize it really quick, it is a deathless run on the hardest difficulty of the game. This means that I, don't die. And I think, although I haven't had the opportunity to buy them in a single run, I think this boss would be one of the strongest and most dangerous bosses in the game. And I think you fight them right after the green ward, which is this guy. And he is needed to be killed because he holds the strongest one-handed weapon in the game. And that's why you would want to kill him, because he makes the rest of the run pretty easy, but he's also the one of the most dangerous bosses in the game because he can easily kill you in just 2 seconds. If you forget to block one of his hammer attacks or lightning attacks, or maybe he jumps, he has a short hop and he jumps and he hits you, and then he hits you again, and you're dead before you understand actually what happened. So yeah, he is definitely an S category. Then we go for the green mort. Now, I would personally put green mort in the A category because I think the first two phases of green mort are pretty easy, especially if you done him a few times. But his third phase, I actually found it pretty hard in my last playthrough to kill him, just because of the one particular attacks. He slumps the ground, and then you have to dodge a avalanche of rocks, and I still haven't figured out a good way to avoid that attack. That is why I put him in the A category. If I were to figure out a consistent way to avoid that attack in the third phase, I would put him in the B category, but he remains in the A category for now. Then we go for the Mosey King. Now, the Mosey King, you'll be surprised, but the Mosey King is one of the, I think, easiest bosses in the game. Of course, every boss has a chance to absolutely murder you, but I think he's one of the weaker ones. And if you are careful and again try to study his attacks, it would not be a much of a challenge. Now, the Mosaic Queen, on the other hand, I think is one level above him because she has some really strong attacks that definitely can caught you off guard and kill you. So that is why she is one level above him. Now I believe these two guys are elites that you find in the mines when you learn that there is a potential invasion again coming from the frogs. You go to the mines accompanied by your brother Dennis and kill a bunch of enemies, and then you face those two guys. Now I'm actually hesitant on where to put them because they are elites and I don't consider them bosses, but still, there are two of them. And if you don't manage your poison, it can actually be fairly hard for you to kill them. That is why I'm tempted to keep them both here on the B category because although they're not a major boss, they can still pack a punch. The next one is the Grub Queen. The Grub Queen is right there in the S category. Now the Grub Queen is a pretty powerful boss, pretty hard boss. In fact, if you are not familiar with one particular cheese, you will have a pretty hard time fighting the boss. And if I am to actually tell you what the cheese is, basically this: if you position yourself right on the center of the arena, there is a possibility for her to throw her eggs more frequently, which allows you to knock her down and do damage to her. However, this is not always consistent. I have tried it a couple of times and sometimes it worked for me, sometimes it doesn't. And she is a very powerful and very punishing boss. So I believe she belongs in the S category. Then we are going for the gladiator fights. Now the gladiator fights, actually not sure how to rank them, but I believe this guy is the first one. I forgot his name. I'll make sure to include it if I find it when I made it in the video, but this guy's pretty easy. Just again, make sure you're nimble and don't carry a lot of weight. Block with your shield and just run around the arena just so you can learn his attacks. The next guy will also be there. Now, we have a problem here because by themselves, these guys think rank in the A category. However, you will face this guy and this guy again in the third fight of the arena fights, and it's fairly hard. I'm actually tempted to put them at the S tier. So if we could copy these guys again, I would say they belong in the A category and in the B category just because of this fight. Now, here comes the interesting part. The Stalker, you'll be surprised, but I rank the Stalkers in the S category. And that is because while I was Completed the game for about fifth time. I actually realized that these are one of the easiest bosses in the game if you actually face them head on and you actually need to fight them at close range. And if you do that, you find that it's much easier to avoid their attacks and kill them. I'll make sure to insert some B-roll for you, just so you can actually see it. Now, I'm not sure who this guy is. I'm really not sure. I think this is the second brute that you face after you escape the mall town, and I don't consider him that hard. In fact, he is not, so he belongs in the C category. Then we are going for the shield basher. Actually made a mistake here. I believe no, actually they belong here. They belong here. This guy is harder, yes. And then we go for this guy. He belongs here. However, Pokemon is one of the strongest and most dangerous arena fights in the game. And you should. My suggestion would be to save your. First of all, you play with a gun, and second of all, you save your ammunitions just so you are able to nuke him when he starts his second phase, because in his second phase he will absolutely trash you. So make sure to kill him as fast as possible. Don't play games. Unload all of your bullets on him and make sure to finish him as fast as you can. That is the best way for you to actually fight that guy. Then we go for the Ratus Augustel. He's very strong, and the Hawk Mogan. Okay, I put him as well. Now, the Ratus Augustel is again very strong boss. You unlock him by collecting all of the statues. If you're interested how to do that, I already have a video made that will help you and show you all of the locations of the statues. But basically, you collect all of the statues. You go to the to this area with the ancient tomb. You put all of the statues in their respected pedestal, and you are allowed to enter his tomb. Then you are actually required to fight him, and he's pretty fast. Okay, in the first phase, I wouldn't say is hard. You can actually break his guard using your two-handed weapon and easily do damage on him. However, in the second and the third phases, he's very fast. He does a lot of damage, and if you are not familiar with what he does, he will absolutely murder you without mercy. So I advise you again to be patient, study his attacks if you can, run around the arena, and don't be cocky, and you'll be fine. Now the shaman is one of the most unknown fights in the game. I remember the first time I actually tried to, in my first Bloody Whiskers difficulty walkthrough, I, and I'm not joking, I almost cried because it took me about 2.5 hours to kill him. And the reason is that he actually covers a lot of space using his staff. In fact, I believe that if you are in the one side of the arena and he's in the other side of the arena, he's perfectly capable of hitting you with his basic attacks because of the staff. It gives him a lot of range. And in the second and the third phases, he starts throwing a, how do I call this, plague grenades at you, which are really annoying. And if you're not sure when to block them, you'll be in trouble. And of course, at the second phase, he summons a minions. I forgot to mention this about the Rata Rattenson as well. He summons additional minions in the second phase, and this, for me at least, it's very distracting, very dangerous. You will die. Most likely, you will die when you're facing the Rata Rattenson and the Shaman. If you're not well prepared and well versed in what he does. Now, this is our brother Dennis corrupted. You might be surprised again, but I'm putting him in the A category because I found a tactic that is working, and I don't consider him a very hard boss. You just go in his face using your two-handed weapon. Again, I'll make sure to provide the footage of how I do him, but basically you are in his face, you spam your two-handed weapon, you block his attack with your shield, and if you dodge correctly and avoid his attacks, you'll be fine. Now, the next guy, of course, is Greenmort. And actually, this guy is called Red Rod. I think I called him a Greenmort before. So, Greenmort is here because, of course, he's the final boss in the campaign. And he is very, very tough. He have a, I think, a very large health pool, and in the hardest difficulty, he's pretty hard to damage, and he's extremely dangerous in all of its phases. I would say he's most dangerous in the second and the third phases. So be prepared for that. And if I could give you some advice, again, I would suggest you preserve most of your ammunitions, preferably on a gun, so you can finish him on the third phase. And specifically for the third phase, while on the phase 1 and 2, you would want to be away from the boss. On the third phase, I definitely suggest you are on his face, attacking him, dodging, and trying to kill him. And if you know, think you have a few hits to finish him, definitely use your gun. The next guy right here is Grey Ears. Grey Ears is one of the deadliest bosses in the game. He's part of the expansion with which actually got us the pretty Whiskers difficulty, I think. He is very powerful and very, very fast. Again, he's one of the most dangerous bosses in the game. He can easily kill you, he can easily trash you. And the main problem with him is that he's very fast and although you can memorize his attacks, because of his speed, you find yourself often not sure which of his attacks he is about to perform. And personally, at least, he threw me off multiple times, and that is why I died a lot to him. Now, this guy, the pirate guy, I forgot his name as well, but he's not that hard. He's actually, I think he actually belongs right. No, he's actually belong right here because although he's fairly easy, he's one of the easiest bosses in the game. He has a very powerful attack with his gun, so don't underestimate him. He can surprise you. So what I'm trying to say. If it wasn't for this, I would put him right here. But because he's a boss and he can actually pack some power, I think he still belongs in here. Then we go with the Eivor. Eivor is definitely a challenge. My suggestion for him would be for you to start with a bow, just because you just so you can kill his squire, that little guy right here. I'm not sure if you see him, but this is what you need to do right at the very beginning. If you leave the squire alongside the Eivor, you're just done. And at the second phase, Eivor will start doing one very hard to dodge attack involving throwing his axe. Again, try to be prepared for it, and if you really wish to avoid it, I advise you to be at the center of the arena right when he is about to throw the axe, so you can side dodge. I found that to be the best tactic, but of course, you're not. Sometimes you will not be able to do it perfectly, so be prepared for it, and I hope you don't die too much to him. And lastly, of course, the Vermenstein. Now, Vermenstein definitely belongs in the S category. He's the strongest and the most annoying boss in the game. Maybe Gray Years I would put a bit higher, but he's still an S tier boss. He has a lot of health, and it will take you a lot of time to get him down. I don't think his attacks are devastating or something, but he is indeed very powerful and capable. He has range. He has one particular attack involving his tongue, capable of hitting you across almost the whole arena. He's dangerous, and you will definitely have to fight him at least 10 minutes, and that's a rather long fight. So be prepared for him. Again, study his attacks for each of his phases. And if you are not greedy, you should be able to actually get him down. So this is my personal list of bosses for Tales of Iron, and this is specifically if they are engaged on the Bloody Whiskers difficulty. If you do them on easy or on medium, you shouldn't have a lot of trouble doing them, but the Bloody Whiskers difficulty is entirely a different thing in my opinion. So again, this is my personal list. This is not a community list, so don't take it too seriously, but I decided to share my knowledge, and I'll make sure again to provide some footage of some of the fights so you can see maybe how I do them. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next Tales of Iron video. And again, I was Witeo, and I hope see you soon.